Oh man. Okay. Let me get the coffee. Let me get more coffee. I need more coffee real quick. Okay. What the hell is going on in One Piece right now? Well, okay. My name is Weekly Shonen. Good morning, and I hope you read the chapter because that's, well, yeah, I hope you read My Hero too. We'll get right past that real quick and focus on the more important thing, the more important matters. But yeah, welcome, good morning. My name is Weekly Shonen, and we have a really insane One Piece chapter breaking the internet currently. I'm pretty sure the next chapter is also gonna be just as big because, you know, hype. That's how hype goes, and that's what happens when you put people on break after such a reveal. So, without further ado, let's get right into My Hero 340. We gotta get through it first because I'm gonna spend the rest of the chapter, the rest of the episode video talking about One Piece. But really quickly, skip ahead to I suggest, even I want to skip ahead. I don't even want to talk about My Hero this week, but it is an obligation. So please feel free to skip ahead just to the One Piece section and come back to this whenever you're interested in My Hero. But really quickly, My Hero 347. Shigaraki's growth, pause. Not too long ago, we talked about how having a quirk meant you had like a full glass of water. And if you had all for one, or if you had one for all, then, you couldn't have a second quirk because your glass would tip over, your glass would break, your body would break. But since Deku had no quirk, he's the perfect user for one for all. Because, his body would adapt to it. And now we're seeing that with Shigaraki. Now, I know that in the previous arc, we kind of knew that Shigaraki's body was turning into like a science experiment, or was going to be always a science experiment that All For One always set up. And so now we're seeing the results of that. Cool. I can't believe I didn't see the extra hands coming, so I found that genius, but it just something that clicked for me this week. Deku and Aizawa get into contact, but it's pointless because they can't warp him back. If they do, then this art piece that Shigaraki has on display goes kaboom, huge disintegration nuke or decay nuke, and then decay nuke, Deku versus Decay. Wow. But yeah, it's on full display, and then boom, everyone's dead. So Deku's gonna have to get back on his own time. And speaking of which, we didn't just get him on the phone this week, we got him in person. We switch over to Deku's scene, and my first thought was like, is this Gang Orca's house? Like, this is an aquarium that he controls, so like, does he live here? That's really messed up if they decide to fight here. That's, this is just guarantees he needs to have house insurance or whatever. But yeah, of course, the new Nomu are stronger than the ones in Jakku. It makes sense because you can't just have this threat of Nomu the entire, series and then just have them become fodder in the final war. So it makes sense that they are, strong, at least notably stronger. And then Toga's face, like this is the last part. This is a quick chapter I gotta get through. Toga's face is just funny. The way she just juts at Deku is adorable. And even like her question here of like, will you be my boyfriend, is pretty funny. Seeing as in she's like as though she's like in Deku's way here, or his way back, I wonder how she's gonna handle the rejection, right? I don't see Deku as someone who's gonna lie to her and be like, yeah, I'll be your boyfriend. Can you just take me back real quick though? Because he's not gonna do that. Also, his girl is here. Both of his ladies are here. You can't just be like that. So I assume that, he's going to be forced to confess his love for Uraraka here. And again, Toga's not just going to be like, oh, cool. All right, at least I tried. Like, she's going to show something here, but I mean, and by show something, words, I mean that she's not going to react too well. So there's going to have to be some convincing maybe. Or, maybe Deku can talk it out with her, kind of have sort of a peaceful resolution here, at least between the two. I still think that the Nomu are going to have to be fought and killed, but, maybe he can at least get back to the battlefield. But by the time he gets there, Shigaraki's probably decimated the rest of the crew. I assume that he's going to be able to hold his own versus the top heroes, or the rest of the top heroes, right? Or the only heroes left. But, yeah, if it was just Genis and Bakugo, maybe he'd be able to just like, screw them over, but I don't know. All these heroes here versus 100% Shigaraki, even though Shigaraki has no quirk, and he's just off the strength, off his own strength, I think it's going to be sort of even, but he's going to get the better of them. And by the time Deku gets back, it's going to be like, oh, thank goodness you're back, because we need you to save us right now. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen next chapter. I think just more on this whole, you know, maybe we'll like spread her out, and Horikoshi would just be like, all right, let me stall for time real quick. Let me just go back to Shoto's fight real quick, or, you know, show you all the other fights before we get into this whole boyfriend thing. But my best case scenario would be we start off with this Toga thing. Settle that right now. End the chapter, or maybe like have 2 chapters of this, and then end that with, okay, so now he's gonna go back to the portal, or he's making his way back, and then we cut off to something else, you know, like then we can go like, all right, so Shoto, and then, you know, get all these other fights out the way, and then be like, all right, so Deku's pulling up, what's good, what's happening. That's the best thing I think could possibly happen. But all right, onward. One Piece 1043. And all right, hold on, let me go back to my notes here, because this is a lot, man. Okay, One Piece 1043. I consulted with all the experts on this one, well, the OGs of the One Piece review scene, and, you know, since, you know, a couple of them wait till release and till the official release to, you know, live stream or like post a video. I'm not gonna be able to get all of them, but, you know, I consulted with most of them. Not personally, I don't know them, but like, you know, I did what I do best, and I consumed. I'm mainly a consumer. I'm a huge fan, and now I'm a producer, content creator, but my main form is consumption. I watch all these videos. I'm not gonna lie and be like, no, I don't watch any One Piece reviewers because I don't want to have the same, you know, theories as them. No. I want to know what the hell everyone is thinking in the community. And I just don't have the time to be scrolling through Reddit, so I'm gonna put on these videos while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning and shit, and be like, yo, what's going through everyone's mind? And the first thing that everyone said unanimously was, call up Morge and tell that nigga,
congratulations, nigga.
But no, seriously, I was at like a complete loss for words for this, and so, you know, I had to go make the rounds early. I still always watch people's videos because it's just, that's how I started this stuff. That's half the reason why I started reviewing. So I'm not just gonna stop just because of that, just so I can have some plausible deniability. Because if I ever do use someone's idea, I will mention it, like today. So starting off with Joy Girl, who says that this chapter was the definition of hype, and spot on. This is breaking the internet currently as we speak. As every new review and new video about this thing comes out, the internet will continue to break itself, and I love it. But she also mentions that this awakening means something different now, because it's not like Luffy's just awakening his devil fruit, he's also awakening a sleeping legend. She also mentioned that Luffy was beginning to fight on par with Kaido. So this Joy Boy power-up, or this Devil Fruit Awakening, should put him over the edge, right? He should be able to edge out Kaido, and I believe that. I think you know, it won't be a one-shot battle, but he's gonna start off dominating. Like, it's gonna be like when he turned Gear 4 against Doflamingo and kicked him in the jaw, type of shit, like drop kick fully. You know, I think that's just how it works. This is a shonen, so, you know, the next power-up means I get to kick your ass in the beginning. Now, it's gonna end evenly, not evenly. Luffy's gonna definitely win here, I think, but I believe it's gonna start off with a lot of domination, and then, you know, eventually he's gonna pull out the win. Going to Tekken real quick, maybe Kaido is on his last legs, right? Maybe this is, you know, all just a bluff. Kaido's wheezing, he's ready to go, and the reason why he's calling out Momonosuke is because he needs an easy win to just completely, you know, ruin the morale. Joy Boy Theory said that trying to fit these pieces together, and the rest of this is all going to be a stretch, complete reach in theory. All the tinfoil is coming out, but he said that this is like trying to put together the pieces to a puzzle and then realizing you're bad at puzzles. So I can totally, you know, agree with that. But also, Joy Boy did mention cohabitation, sort of Luffy and Joy Boy's existence learning to coexist now that, you know, it's been awakened. Similar to Blackbeard, right? You know, Luffy's awakening is like liquefying his straw hat. Now, that's another theory, but I won't touch on that yet. All I will say is, you know, I just have a question. What effect would that have on the fire in Onigashima if Luffy could rubber fire? If Luffy could affect, you know, the surroundings, like, you know, that's all I really say on the whole, you know, area of effect part of the Devil Fruit Awakening. But a question that I had, the question that he had as well was, did Kaido know that you had to become Joy Boy through death? And also, did the world government know that? I think no, because they wouldn't be trying to kill him if they knew that that's how you activated his awakening. So, down the drain. But, really good question. Another thing I'll say on that front is, if Kaido did know, then he would be happy with the win, or he would be celebrating Joy Boy's return. And as Morge pointed out, Kaido is not happy. I mean, everyone can see that. It doesn't take someone pointing it out, but he's definitely not happy. On to King of Lightning, or Cole, if I may. This whole heartbeat thing, whole Luffy awakening thing is similar to when Enel revived himself. He's not the only one to mention this, but Cole's video did kind of make me think specifically on how Luffy could restart his heart. And that was the idea that, a desperate Luffy could possibly pull it off. Not out of a technique thing, but out of I just need to get my heart to beat no matter what, and then maybe I'll rubberify it and just keep moving it around until it becomes pumping blood, or just working his heart similar to how he works his blood in Gear 2. Now, I don't think it's just the whole reviving or just the heartbeat thing. It has to do with just the conditions. These are specific conditions that needed to be met for Joy Boy's return. Luffy's in Wano on the day of the Fire Festival, where the dead rise on the destined day, the destined year, and he just happened to die here while being at such a high level that he was close to awakening anyway. So I think it's just a combination of all those things. It's not just, oh, that was what caused it. That's the way that you activate the Gomu Gomu no Mi's awakening form, is by dying and coming back. No, it specifically had to be in this way. Now, Cole does ask if this is similar to Yu Yu Hakusho's Mazaku, and I think he kind of disregards that. I also think it could be similar to Naruto's introduction of Hagoromo, or the Sage of the Six Paths, their death and revival there. It's possible. According to law, Luffy is not possessed. BDA law, sorry. Luffy is not possessed, and I think that's a better route to go. This whole demon thing, it kind of would spoil the moment. I'll get to that in just a second, but it's a cool thought though. But yeah, I doubt that it's gonna be, it might have references to Yu Yu Hakusho, Naruto, even Bleach and stuff, but I think it's safe to say that One Piece is gonna go its own way, because it just always happens to, whether it references something else or does something similar to another manga, it still finds its way to just be completely on its own. JD Legend says this is very similar to Ichigo versus Ukiura, which is not gonna lie, there's a lot of similarities there. Ichigo dies and his hollow comes out. I think it's a lot more similar than he lets on during the live stream, and maybe this could just be inner thoughts that just didn't come out, or maybe he just forgot to mention it, whatever. But Ichigo's killed and then thrown off the top of a tower, similar to how Luffy was killed and thrown off the top of Onigashima. Orihime shouts for him to come back. We got a shout from Nami this chapter. She didn't cry out for help or anything like that, but she did cry out for Luffy, sort of. Also gotta remember that Naruto had the same experience when, he pulled up in Sage mode, but that's a video for another day. But yeah, we also got Ichigo's heartbeat when he came back. We got the ba-dum-ba-dumps in the sound effects, but there's something else I want to consider. Ichigo once reached the point where his Reiatsu was undetectable to Aizen. I think a similar thing is about to happen with Luffy, or it's just happened with Luffy, right? Where his voice is gone, but he's back, he's alive. It coming back and people not recognizing that is just that same thing as Ichigo, where his voice just exists on a different plane now, and it's not going to be heard by people who even have the will of D. It's going to be just heard by the world. His voice is going to, that whole upgrade to the voice of all things is going to be shown here, where, we got a little bit, the last time he lost and was thrown off into the water, where Law's crew could hear him underwater. And he wasn't specifically shouting out to them. It was just his will was existing in the water. I also think we're going to get a couple more references to Bleach, where Luffy's going to come back, and since people don't recognize his voice, we're gonna get that, is this him? Who, is that Luffy? Is that Ichigo? What are these moves type of thing? I feel like something similar is gonna happen there, just to have the references. And I'd even take it a step further and say we're gonna get a Hunter x Hunter moment, where maybe someone like Chopper sees Luffy's new form and realizes that he's just eating away at his own lifespan. So it's wow, this is a really strong Luffy, but this has 3 minutes before he's dead. So what the hell is happening? Or maybe he's he notices that Luffy's already on his last legs and he's reviving into awakening while having no stamina, no HP. And so this is really dangerous for him. Now, the whole possessed thing, Randy Troy mentions that if Luffy's dead, then so is Zoro. So that just makes me think, does that mean both are going to come back with a crazy upgrade? Like, we have number 1 and number 2 both out, both existing right now on the line between life and death. So does that mean that we're setting up for like a Naruto and Sasuke Sage of 6 Paths moment where they both come back? It'd be overkill. You know, unless Big Mom comes back, or like the Big Mom Pirates, someone strong needs to handle the rest while Luffy handles Kaido, or, you know, maybe we do get ZKK at the end of it. Not too sure, but I would ask, you know, if Luffy comes back possessed, the best case scenario is that Zoro comes back possessed and handles Luffy. You know, it kind of simmers him down after the fact, though. You know, he goes all out, kills Kaido, and then he's still on a rampage and Zoro has to stop him. I think that's a less likely scenario. That's a really cool scenario. I would love that, because I'm pretty sure if that did happen, Oda would find a way to make it work, but I just think, you know, thematically it would not work. Morge Man also mentioned that Momo's dilemma right here is similar to Odin's, where he had to choose between fighting and protecting the country. I think this means we're just in for like a really surprising fight between Yamato and Momonosuke against Kaido. You know, we're gonna get a really good moment from them. This whole final stand thing here is gonna be good for them. Vinland also does note the similarities between Luffy and Odin, rather than Momonosuke and Odin, where, you know, we got this whole boiling thing, boiling, smiling, Luffy's boiling, melting, smiling, yada, yada, yada. Vinland does also mention something else that I'll mention later on. But then the miscellaneous things that were mentioned, where's Killer? BDA Law. We haven't seen Jean Bart do anything. That's facts. That came from Randy. Denjiro's been gone for a year and a half, mentioned by Cole. And Dripper Scarf is most likely still alive, from Morge. All things that I think are, you know, noteworthy. If we don't have Zoro in right now, it's very possible that we have Killer in to, you know, step in and just help out there. We haven't seen Jean Bart do anything, and I don't think we ever will. I think it's the most he will ever do. Maybe we get a Beppo Sulong form. Maybe. I doubt it. I think Beppo is just destined for failure as well. And also, Denjiro's been gone for a year and a half, so whenever Komurasaki does her thing, I think Denjiro's gonna be there to save her. Maybe she can't find her way out, and Denjiro pops in and he's like, yo, we gotta dip. Raizo's plan is about to take into play. I gotta scoop you up real quick, and maybe that's how he helps. Ultimately, he's been gone, but he's also been, I think, the least injured of all the Scabbards. So, you know, if anyone's got some fight left in them that can help stall Kaido, I think Denjiro of all the Scabbards would be it. Okay, and finally, my own takeaways from the chapter. It's gonna be a long one. The idea that Joey Boy has returned for the first time in 800 years tells me immediately off the bat one thing, which is that Ace was never Joy Boy, and that's a hard pill for me to swallow, because with his whole relevance coming back into play during Wano, you would have thought, oh yeah, he definitely was the title of Joy Boy until Luffy came back. But clearly, it's the first time the drum's beaten in 800 years. It was never Ace. It could have been maybe, but it was never actually Ace, and I don't mean to throw an L on his name, because you gotta respect the dead. And also, Ace is a huge, you know, part of this series. But, you know, I just see that becoming more prevalent now that, you know, or like just before like chapter 1000, like when Ace was mentioned more and more, you know, I saw that becoming more relevant, and I think it's important now to recognize that the time for that thought, the time for that ideology is over. Second thing I want to mention is Devil Fruit lineage factor, which, you know, if the souls of the ancient kingdom potentially are stored inside of Devil Fruits, what does that mean for Smiles? You know, if you need Kaido's lineage factor to make the Smiles, then wouldn't that mean that everyone who's eaten a Smile fruit has a bit of Kaido inside of them, has some of his will in there? It would make sense why they'd follow him afterwards, but also his whole thing is about breaking people's wills anyway, so it kind of X's each other out. What's that? Cancels each other out. I have too many notes relating to the Child of Prophecy stuff, so I'm gonna save them for video in a couple of days. And I think that's just the best way for me to go about it, because it's just too much, and the review's already going to be 30 minutes, so you have to chill out on that. But I do want to mention Hyogoro in 990. That reference to Luffy looking like a guardian deity is going to come right back into play, I believe. Why not look into Luffy's form a little bit better and just jump right into the tinfoil? Let's get right back on it, and starting with this whole oil sap thing. Vinland, I think, came best with the resin theory. I know that Uteron has a whole theory about it being about oil, but I think Vinland's his style of video just makes it come across a little bit better, because I still do reject the idea. I still hate the idea of oil. And I'm not too fond of the idea of Luffy's, you know, rubber coming from like tree sap, or just like, I get that's the real world aspect there, but you know, there's only so many ways that it can work out for me. So which one is it? I doubt it's oil. Both have been fought over. Oil is fought over in the real world, but you know, whatever it is could have been a resource of the ancient kingdom. I think that's the way that it works. You know, if it is sap, right? If it is like that resin thing, then it would make sense if, you know, there was this scarce resource and the 20 kings came together to invade the island of paradise, I mean ancient kingdom, and decides, okay, we're gonna take over this resource, and then Joy Boy just happened to have the fruit for that, or maybe like they had the great tree that did produce that resin, and you know, he decided, I'm gonna make a fruit out of rubber, and I'm gonna come back and show you all, type of thing. Like, you know, that maybe that's how the Gomu Gomu no Mi was made. It was supposed to hide the fact that, you know, it's supposed to be the key to unlocking, like, you know, the Void Century, which is like the reason why we went to war was because of this scarce resource, and Joy Boy embodies that. So with his return, he kind of outs the world government there. This also makes me think of Zunisha's sin in the past. You know, maybe Joy Boy was captured, maybe she went to go find him. I think the reputation that Pluton has with being an island destroying ship comes from Zunisha. I'm pretty sure, you know, she is Pluton, but that may come from, you know, her disobeying an order, or just her going out on her own, being provoked, whatever way it was. But somehow, some way in that Void Century, she destroyed an island. It could have been to save Joy Boy. She maybe, like, you know, destroyed an island in anger, or maybe she found the island that he was on and you know, decimated it while looking for him, trying to free him. Maybe he was already caught by then, and then, you know, maybe she did this against his will, and so that way, you know, when she finally did rescue him, he was just like, you can't do anything, you have to walk the seas and hide until I come back, because this is crazy. Because maybe she, like, you know, killed a bunch of you know, civilians along the way. I think it's a little more complex than that, but it's a fun thought. As for the whole tree sap reference thing that we got in the 1039 cover page, I'll get to that in just a second. I want to kind of segue into that with Randy's, I think, donation, which mentioned that Luffy's not smiling. And this made me think of how Luffy wasn't smiling when Gear 4 was revealed, right? He's very serious, and his voice even gets deeper, which brings me to my next point, the Gear 4 reveal. What can we look at in the Gear 4 reveal that might help us with the whole Gear 5 or the Awakening? And I think, first off, just to touch on this, the idea that Luffy's not using his fruit correctly the entire time is invalid, I believe, because when he turns Gear 4, you see the tattoos, you see the marking of his devil fruit to kind of show that this is the epitome of how his devil fruit is going to be used, or like, this is the correct way. I think it kind of goes against that idea. Now, if Joy Boy is in control, we can still get a new move set without it being that Luffy, you know, was using his fruit wrong the entire time. It could be like a whole Ichigo hollow form thing. I would love that, where, you know, he's just completely unconscious and just the spirit of Joy Boy is taking over and just doing new shit with his fruit. But I don't think that'll be the alternative use. I think that's just going to be moves that Luffy ends up using in the final, like, you know, fight. You know, like, all right, wow, these are crazy move sets that, you know, now Luffy has unlocked because he's, you know, he's witnessed that. Kind of dilute some of his victories in the future, though, because if that's the case, right? Because then it'll just mean that he hasn't created them. Luffy's created every single move that we've seen him use. So if we have Joy Boy come out and just be like, yo, here's the move sets, here's the spoilers for the rest of the series, and then Luffy just slowly uses them, or maybe even the next arc just masters them, it kind of takes away, unless, you know, we go that route of like he just masters them by the next time he transforms, by the next time he wakes up in Elbaf or something, and then, you know, he can use newer moves in the future. Maybe not. Gear 4's cover page, when it was revealed, also had the zombies from Thriller Bark, which is funny because Gear 4 does resemble Nightmare Luffy. So now that we have this more recent color spread of 1039, the whole Monkey King pointing to the tree sap thing is pretty funny, because it just makes me think that this is actually Joy Boy, the Monkey King in the spread, pointing Luffy in the direction of awakening rather than like, you know, what I thought at when I first saw this, I thought it was just him pointing him in the direction of Laugh Tale. Like, you know, maybe he's doing the same thing. It's all in one, right? If Joy Boy is now guiding Luffy, or if the spirit of Joy Boy has been guiding Luffy throughout his journey this whole time, then he's always been pointing him in the direction of Laugh Tale. But this specific scenario, the specific cover page would be, here's what the awakening looks like. Just give you a little nudge there. Last Randy Troy reference I make, because I was in his stream OD long, and I tried to go back and watch all of Law's 6-hour stream there, but I could not get through it. I got through like an hour, but because I just missed it live. I think I had just woken up by then too. I woke up at 3 a.m. for some reason and read the chapter. I just could not get to sleep. But Randy's stream also touched on the onomatopoeia of what we see at the end of the chapter, right? Which was, it has two meanings. We have, the first one is to beat quietly, as in death, or in Luffy's quiet smile here at the end. And the second means a heavy heartbeat thump. So that's what I mean by Luffy's voice is probably vanished, but it's not because he's dead or possessed, it's just that he's reached a new form of beating. And, you know, it just makes sense when you look at the Bing Sake line. It talks about beating a drum and losing nerve. Don't lose nerve, you know, hold your breath, which is exactly what we see in this chapter, right? Or in the chapter before, which is like Luffy trying to hold his actual breath in and not die. But, you know, this could have been Joy Boy's way of speaking, I think. Speaking his reemergence into existence, where he's like, hey, no matter if I die, my song will live on. My heartbeat is going to live on through this fruit or through time itself. This whole idea of like Luffy's drum beating, like the whole Zanisha line about the drums of liberation beating is just, yeah, an onomatopoeia thing. It's going to be part of the soundtrack when it's animated, but also this is, you know, this is just Luffy's voice beating on a different plane, like I said about the whole Aizen thing. Now, since we're on the topic of color spreads, and I'm going real deep into this whole, this just gets worse and worse by the minute, but I want to touch on 1028. Not because I want to remember the fact that Oda fucks with Super Smash Bros, but because there's a few things to check out here as well. Mainly the numbers, right? But first of all, we get Luffy beating up a Gorilla Suit Frankie in a fire form. All of this is just making the mind spin, right? This is, it's pretty funny. Luffy's new form is going to be a giant gorilla, but like, it would make all the sense in the world, right? We get the whole guardian deity line while Luffy's in his, you know, Gear 4th form. Tiny gorilla, but, you know, it resembles the guardian deity itself. So it makes sense that the new form expands upon that. And since we've already got him melting from the top, right? His hair is melting. We've got the hair on fire in the color spread. It's just a really, really fun reference, and Oda is really genius for that. What is even more genius for is this whole numbers thing, right? There's numbers throughout this color spread that I looked into. And by looked into, I don't mean I went full Ohara and just, you know, learned Japanese and learned how these things are pronounced and found the perfect things. No, I just looked at the corresponding chapters, starting with 19, and that's it. That's all I need right here is this whole hippo thing. It's called Devil Fruit, and this is like in reference to the awakening. Like, what's going on? No, but I think this is the easiest stretch here. The hippo is, you know, obviously can represent Blackbeard, and since it's called Devil Fruit, it's talking about Luffy's awakening, or like, you know, it's a fun, cheeky reference from Oda to Luffy's awakening, not 20 years into the future, but just like a call back to that. If it's intentional, that would mean that this cover page kind of teased Luffy's awakening, or the importance of what having a devil fruit is, which is the second part of chapter 19. This is the chapter where Buggy tells us about how he ate his own devil fruit, how that kind of made him lose the ability to swim to the bottom of the ocean and find this treasure that, you know, he wanted. Will that treasure come back into play? I believe so. I believe at the very least we have to get to the bottom of the ocean, right? So this is a very important chapter, and it's one of the very few numbers on this color spread that is really visible, right? The rest here are kind of covered. I mean, with the exception of 39, 38. Yeah, there's two more numbers here that are really visible, and then the other ones are like hit or miss, right? So you got the 20s and the 60s. You can see that there's a 20 chapter and a 60 chapter here. I could not make them out. The only connection I could make within the 60s was that this is Luffy's fight with Don Krieg, meaning the last time that an opponent caused Luffy to go into the ocean, And especially after the 19 mention of him sinking into the ocean. It's just weird. It's just really, really weird, right? Oh yeah, also there's like, you know, Luffy's line about not dying, which is exactly what Roger said to Rayleigh. Not a big deal, you know, that's really a reach, but... Oh yeah, also in the 20s, chapter 22 is called Strange Creatures. Maybe Luffy's about to transform into a strange creature, like this kind of chimera between a dragon gorilla thing. I'm not too sure. I think it's just mainly going to be a gorilla, but I'll save that for the end. But yeah, chapter 38 is the only other clear number here, or at least in the symbols that we see in the background, and it's called Pirate Crew. It features Usopp bringing in the new era of Joy Boy. Oda also makes a quick appearance. That's literally all I found here, though. The chapter, I skimmed through it, so maybe I missed something. Maybe someone else in the community has already figured this thing out, but not me, not this guy. And then the last number I want to touch on, which is not a background number, but is actually featured on Usopp's goggles here, is 800. So I went back to 800, and this is the chapter where the Straw Hat Grand Fleet is formed, right? It's pretty cool. Luffy rejects the sake cup, but Zoro drinks the sake, which is the perfect indicator that this is exactly how the Pirate King rolls, right? This is Dark King Zoro at play here, where this is potentially a panel that we all come back to when the Straw Hat Grand Fleet does come into play, and Luffy's not there to command them, so Zoro's commanding them, where everyone's just gonna come up and be like, oh, this was foreshadowed. Like, since Zoro drank the sake cup, he was technically the leader of the Grand Fleet. So, pretty fun. Potentially, you know, oh my god, Goda comment in the future because of this. But yeah, there's only one more thing I want to take away, and I think it's the most important takeaway. It has nothing to do with the numbers, but it has everything to do with this phrase on top, which is, this is your story. I haven't seen many complaints myself, but when tuning into the reviews, the reactions, and the streams this week, I saw, you know, this whole Child of Prophecy thing kept coming up, and it kept being brought up as a bad thing because, you know, Bleach and Naruto kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth with the way that they kind of executed this trope, right? So I've way too many notes to dish out about the whole Child of Prophecy thing, so like I said, I'm going to save it for another video. But, you know, I do want to say, you know, I believe this line here is going to come into play by the end of Wano, which is just something that we should all remember going forward, which is that this is still the story of Monkey D. Luffy. This is not the story of Joy Boy. This is the continuation of Joy Boy's story, but, you know, this is very much a Luffy doing what Luffy wants to do thing. In terms of what we're going to see next chapter, or in the future, in the very near future, I think Luffy's going to go full fire gorilla, beat on his chest like it's a drum, and that's what's going to be heard. That's going to be the new voice that we hear for Luffy, and maybe that drum beats so damn loud it's heard around the world. Maybe not. But I think, you know, at the very least, we're going to get a super giant fire hot gorilla Luffy beating on his chest, causing earthquakes, clashing with Kaido. And, you know, at the very least, he's going to start off that round, this final round with Kaido, one, in display of everyone, or in view of everyone in the Flower Capital, and two, dominating him, because that's just how Shonen power-ups work once again. And then the last thing I do want to mention is Kaido mentions that Onigashima will land on the Flower Capital without delay. So it's possible we won't see Luffy at all next chapter, and it'll focus on Raizo and the Scabbards' plan to escape. And that's going to give us like a final page setup. At the very least, like at best case scenario, with Oda's pacing, he's able to work in Raizo's plan, Yamato and Momonosuke's last stand here, and all this, like, you know, Flower Capitals in peril. All of this stuff is going to be squeezed into one chapter, and then the very last panel, very last page maybe, is Luffy popping up in his new form. That's best case scenario. I think more likely that, you know, we just get a whole chapter of Kaido really wrecking house and making, like, you know, bringing out everyone who's left to fight him and just going right through them. And then maybe the chapter after that is when, you know, oh my god, it's over the Flower Capital. What are we gonna do? The citizens of the Flower Capital are now noticing this, and then, you know, the very last page of the next chapter, 1045, yeah, is you know, Luffy finally popping back up. Or maybe he pops up halfway through and, like, we get some of that dominating thing, right? But like the whole savior thing is gonna be saved for obviously when Onigashima's like right above the Flower Capital, and, like, you know, it's the most dire. Luffy in, you know, gorilla fire form, or just so heated up that he's melting his rubber as he's like walking around, something like that. But yeah, fire gorilla versus dragon twister Kaido. I don't know, I forget his epithet, but strongest creature Kaido. And I think we're setting up for a Namek situation, right? We have Raizo's plan, I believe, is a mass retreat. Get everyone, all the alliance off of the island right now, and we just have a Super Saiyan Luffy moment, a Namek situation moment. You know, we already have the whole 5 minutes thing. The island is on fire, crumbling just like Namek, right? And we, like, that's it. Like, if Raizo's plan is for everyone to escape, then it just leaves Luffy and Kaido. It leaves Luffy to go all out, Kaido to go all out. They don't have to worry about Onigashima crumbling, because it's cool whether this thing is close to the flower capital or not. So long as Kaido's dealt with, Momonosuke can push it away. So, you know, that's all dealt with. But yeah, I think as soon as Raizo confirms that his plan is to get everyone off the island, it's confirmed. Luffy is, you know, about to go, you know, have his Super Saiyan moment. This is going to be the most iconic moment in the series, where his power-up is, like, the main thing. Well, I mean, his power-up is usually the main thing, but, like, it's going to be a really direct parallel of Namek, and, you know, it just takes one thing. I think it takes one thing for that. We've already got the 5-minute situation, like I said. Island's on fire. You know, the most dire moment, you know, if this thing lands on the flower capital, it explodes, you know, everything is kaput. There goes Wano. So I think yeah, it just takes Raizo's confirmation here, and then we're good to go. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. Been talking for an hour, so I'm gonna have to edit this shit somehow and put it out eventually. So my name is Weekly Shonen. I will see you in a couple of days to talk about the Child of Prophecy stuff, and then again a few days after that, Platinum End's second to last episode, and then maybe another video in between, because we have this break. So yeah, I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen's back next week, and I'm pretty sure My Hero's on not on break, so we'll get another Big 3 review or another Big 2 review, and then yeah, man, just can't wait to talk about One Piece more. So that's all I've got. Like I said, my name is Weekly Shonen. Have a great day. Enjoy all of the internet has to offer right now, because I cannot imagine there's not a pocket on this community that is not talking about this whole reveal. So enjoy, have fun. Always respect people's opinions, where they're not, you know, they're spitting out theories that you agree with or you think are stupid. Just always remember that. And yeah, be safe. Bye.